So now what we're going to look at is hand fighting strategies from the diagonal back control. We established that there are more offensive options from the diagonal back control. Okay, you've got a set of offensive options. They generally tend to deviate whether you're looking to trap hands, and then once you trap hands, you have the choice of whether you're going to look for neck exposure for a rear strangle, or if you're going to look for a back triangle. Okay, so that's like one fork in the road and then two further forks in the road. And the other direction is going to be switching to a pin Tegatami, which is its own unique position with like a whole system of movements you can employ from there. All right, so those are the two general directions. You can attack from a diagonal back control, the two general like offensive directions. Okay, let's start looking at the first direction, which is the direction of hand fighting, which is really the one which keeps you in the back control, right? If you switch to a pin Tegatami, you're basically saying, okay, you know, I got my points, but I wasn't able to get my finish here. Now I'm going to shift to another position to try to get my finish. Maybe the guy's got really good back control defense, so that's why you make that choice, okay? But before you do that, I think you should try to finish it within the back control, and that's going to be largely against good people. You're going to look to hand fight. Looking to hand fight doesn't always mean you're going to need to trap the hand to get the strength. Okay, sometimes when we're going to look at this, you're going to be able to get the strangle without trapping his hands, but it's going to be the pursuit of that trap, oftentimes, which sets up the strangle, regardless of whether you actually succeed with it. Okay, yeah. So anyway, let's start with. I'm going to have Max's back in a diagonal back control. Hop a little bit closer to the camera. So and a little bit more that way. Okay. So now I have a diagonal back control. Now, what we want to understand is that there's two main grip variations we can form here. I can get same side grips or cross grips. Ultimately, what we want is to get double cross grips like so, because that's going to enable me now to take this leg and trap this hand, okay? If I try to trap like this, my arm is in my own way. Now you might get it, but it's like your own arm is blocking you, and he's also probably going to be trying to tighten, so it's like, it's fucking hard. Whereas if I'm here, even if he tries to tighten, my own arm is not blocking me, so I can trap with far greater ease. So we're really looking for this double cross. Now, sometimes you'll have to start with a double same, okay? We'll talk about that in a second, but let's just start in a situation where he's giving us the double cross. So if in this situation, it's very easy for me to always take my top hand and establish the first of the two double crosses. When we make a cross grip, I'm going to make a C grip at the end of the wrist. Okay, so it locks in place like so. See how that C grip goes right there? We don't go to the knuckles here. We go to the end of the wrist, okay, with a C grip. It locks in place. Now, the first cross grip is very easy to form. It's essentially a Kimura, okay? So we make this Kimura here. We make our first cross grip. But now to get the second cross grip, it's going to be very dependent upon whether his hand's below his chest or not. Okay, if it's below his chest, he's essentially giving me the second cross grip. I can just take my left hand, reach through, and now look, I have double cross, and we can go to trap. You'll be shocked at how easily this happens, or rather I should say how often this happens. Yeah, you might think this is very naive and you shouldn't be doing it, but people still do it regardless. So you go here, and you trap, okay? And you've got the first trap, all right? Sit up for a second. Okay, now, turn this way. Now, if a cross grip goes at the wrist, a same side grip is going to go at the knuckles. You don't grab a same side grip at the wrist. It's too easy for him to straighten his arm up, and strip it. So we grab here at the knuckles. Now when he goes to straighten out, it's much harder to strip. Okay. Whereas if I were to make a cross grip at the knuckles, he brings the elbow back and he strips very easily. Whereas the same side grip, he goes to bring the elbow back, he doesn't do that much. Okay. The way he's going to free the same side grip is by extending the arm, right? So you want to grab here. So when he goes to extend, it's a difficult thing to do. All right. Now let's go back to the diagonal back control. So now, if he goes like this, I can make that first cross grip, but I can't make the second because look, my left hand, there's nothing there for me to grab. So what I want you guys to do instead is we go double same, okay, and we call this going fishing, okay? I'm going to take the double same and I'm going to bring it here, baiting him into grabbing here. People will do this very frequently, okay? It's like you throw the hook in and you're going fishing. The fish took the bait. All right, now I take my left hand, I reach through, and you grab here. Now he is essentially locking his own arm in place. I actually don't care if he holds on to this. If he does, I'll allow him to do it because it means I don't need to use this forearm as much, right? I'll only switch and grip if he goes to strip this grip with this hand, right? Then you have to address it, right? But if he holds on to this, I'll let him hold on to it. I don't care. You can trap regardless, okay? So the first grip is
the Kimura grip, and if the hand's low, you just grab it, right? If the hand's high, you have to go double same, which we understand is at the line of the knuckles. We go fishing, bang, he took it. And you trap. Now what happens if he doesn't take the bait? All right, you hear, he's not taking the bait. Okay, well what you have to do at that point is, look, you push the hand low, and we take the wrist, keep your chin down, and you threaten the strangle. And we're gonna look at how to get through to this, actually finish this strangle here later on, but here he's gonna address it, he addresses it, and you gotta keep looking for the strangle. He pulls it down, and then you grab. And then you grab here. So it's that threat of the strangle. We go up, he pulls down, pulls down, pulls down. I catch. That allows us to get the double cross we're looking for. Okay? So, those are some basic preliminary hand fighting strategies you guys can employ when in a diagonal back control. Okay, cut. Okay, so we looked at 3 hand fighting strategies to get to our double cross, and we compared the double cross and the double same grip, all right? Let's now look at a set of variations or a set of different ways we can configure our legs when we've trapped the hands, okay? There's gonna be 3 main ways we can do that. We looked at configurations of our legs when we haven't trapped the hand, right? But now we're gonna look at some different configurations of our legs when we have trapped the hand, okay? Things are gonna be very different when we've trapped the hand. All right, so we're gonna start from the back control. All right, so in the diagonal back control, assuming we've managed to trap the hand, the first configuration of our legs that we're gonna adopt is I catch with the heel. Now look, I'm still gripping the double cross grip. I pull it up, and I'm gonna rotate my toes underneath, okay? And I catch not just with the heel, but with the toes. Now, the toes coming to my knee, I can control this with far greater ease. Now I'm gonna put this behind his back, like so. Okay, let's just sit up, turn. I want them to see like from the other side. Oh, oops, sorry, rotate this way. Okay, so you see how I'm going as low as I can on his back with this arm? Now this arm is trapped, and I can start looking for the strangle. Now, turn back. Now, the trick is that requires you to rotate your toes underneath his wrist, and honestly, if someone knows that's coming, it's a hard thing to get. They're gonna staple their wrist to their torso, like at all costs. And what that's gonna mean is that you're denied the ability to rotate your toes underneath the wrist and put the leg behind his back. Okay, you can try to draw the heel back, but in my opinion, it's a pretty hard thing to do unless you've caught with the toes as well as the heel, okay? Just bringing the heel back, I don't think has the same level of success. So in such a situation, what should you do? So we're here, and he keeps that stapled very tight, and trying to draw with the heel back is really hard. I cannot rotate my toes underneath. In that case, what I want you to do is cross your legs. Just cross your legs. Don't worry about getting behind his back. Okay, this is actually my favorite configuration of my legs. Bring your wrist lower, Max. My favorite configuration of the legs when I have been unable to put my foot behind his back. Okay, chin down. Here we can do all the same thing, looking for the strangle as before. And in addition, it has the added advantage of allowing us, we're going to look at this transition at length later, but allowing us to transition into the back triangle, okay? If you put your foot behind his back, that transition is no longer available to you. Now the advantage of putting your foot behind his back is that his arm is farther away, or his hand is going to be farther away from your hand. So it's more inhibited than it would be if it was like, if your feet are right here, the hand is a little bit closer, whereas if the foot is back here, it keeps the hand farther away. But I think, in my opinion, crossing your feet is the better option because it's easier to get to. It doesn't require him to, like if you get your toes underneath the wrist, it's largely because he didn't know you were trying to do that. I don't think there's a good way to force your toes underneath the wrist, okay? If you get that, it's great. I'm not saying don't use it, but that's an error on his part that he should not have allowed. He shouldn't have allowed you to get your toes there. What he should have done is kept his wrist stapled here, okay? In such a case, it's hard to get your toes underneath there, but you can simply cross your feet, right? Then that traps the arm all the same. There, you can pursue the strangle, and then in addition, because the leg's in front of his torso, right? Like so, here, keep that in your torso. Yeah, look, because it's here, okay, I can transition to that back triangle, right? Now let me trap the hand. I cannot, like, I have to take the foot out to transition to the back triangle, and as I take the foot out, there's a lot of space, and I'll usually pummel that back in, right? Whereas if I'm here, I start here, see how it's tighter, right? It blocks it off. Whereas if I'm here to take it out, there's like usually a small window of opportunity for him to get that wrist back. So I'd rather go here, and then we transition to the back triangle. But we're gonna look at that sequence at length later on, okay? Now, the third configuration, Max, do this very slow when I do it, okay? So the third configuration, actually turn. So the third configuration of our legs, I'm gonna show you guys this from the back because we're gonna rotate, okay? It involves him making a big mistake, but people do this all the time, all right? So I'm here, and I trapped, and I've only trapped again with the cross. The foot's not behind his back. There's the legs. Go on your right hip, Max. So they rotate, and as they rotate, you allow them to, and you lock up a body triangle on the top side. So just scoot your hips back this way. You gotta take some more that way. No, nice, that way. Good. Okay, stop. Okay, so now we're essentially in a parallel back control. Okay, both my legs are on the same side, but his hand is trapped. The only way to get here is by trapping hands from the diagonal back control, and then he makes a stupid mistake. He tries to rotate to escape. There's no reason he should have done that, but regardless, people do it all the time. And now we're in a really good situation to look for the strangle, okay? A good match where you can see this happen pretty much exactly as I've shown. Fortunately, the camera works kind of wonky in the match, but you can still see this happening, is Nikki Ryan versus Hideo Tokoro. Okay, I'm gonna break that down later in this site, okay? There'll be like an analysis of that showing that specific variation of the leg configuration from a hand trap, okay? So these are the three main ways you're gonna look to configure your legs once you've succeeded in trapping the guy's hands. And the goal in all these situations is to make it the case that he does not have two free hands to defend against the strangle, right? If I have his back, so if I have Max's back here, and I don't trap a hand and I look for the strangle, he can always hand fight like that, right? In the defensive section, we talk about the hand fighting strategies. We just looked at offensive hand fighting, right? In the defensive section, we talk about what he should be doing, right? He's got the primary and the secondary defensive hand, right? And he makes it hard for me to get through to the strangle. I want to gain top hand position and through some form of hand fighting strategy, configure my legs to block one of his hands, right? That's the ultimate goal of all of this, okay? And then we can use one hand to block this hand, and then we have a free hand to battle against his chin, okay? And that's a fight which usually, as the offensive end, you're gonna win. In the next section, what we're going to look at, so we've succeeded in fighting past his hands. Now we're gonna look at neck exposure strategies, okay? Which is gonna lead to gaining a rear strangle. All right, guys, so now we're gonna look at another strategy where we look to attack our opponent from a back control situation where we've trapped his hands, or I should say one of his hands, behind his back, and we're gonna look to submit him. First, we were looking to get a rear strangle. We're looking to gain neck exposure for a rear strangle. Now, we're going to look to gain neck exposure with our legs to get a back triangle, okay? In my opinion, the back triangle, I think your best offensive direction from the back triangle situation is the straight arm lock, okay? Specifically a very, very powerful variation of the straight arm lock we call the Tegatami, okay? I think the back triangle is the best situation to get the Tegatami, all right? We're gonna talk about that as we move through this video, all right? So anyway, let's just start with the back control, and let's just talk about the basic transition into the back triangle, okay? So anyway, so you've gotta trap the hand, so however you did it, we looked at a lot of different options for doing that before, but once you trap the hand, if you put the foot behind, this is not ideal, the foot behind the wrist, it's not ideal for transitioning into a back triangle. Instead, what you want to do is you want to cross your feet. All right? Now, I'm going to take this Kimura grip. I'm going to take my left hand, grab like so. Now I take my right hand, I take my tricep, not my forearm, my tricep against the side of his head, and I push. Now I pass to a Kimura grip once again. So I started with a Kimura grip. I went to a one-handed grip. I used my tricep, not my forearm. This is a very common mistake. My tricep, and I regained the Kimura grip. Now from here, I'm gonna take my left foot. It drapes over the top of his thigh, okay? Now I throw my right leg over the top of his shoulder. As I do this, I pull back on the Kimura grip. Now look, I'm here. I'm gonna take my left foot. It's gonna go to his hip. I push my hips back, and then I lock up the triangle, and I put my foot. You don't wanna leave it here. You wanna put it here, okay? So let's look at that transition once more. So trap the hands. I go here. I lock up the Kimura grip. And look, I'm gonna extend my left leg and throw my right leg over the top. Okay? Now look, I push, and bring my hips back, and I lock up the back triangle. All right? Now, from here, if we want to finish this Tegatami, first I go to a regular straight arm lock. This can work. Yeah, topple this way. Now look, guys. This can work, but it's not optimal. What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna push down here. This is not intending to finish, it's just intending to hold the arm in place. So I can pass off, like so, okay? Now, I bring my elbow into my torso to restrict the ability he has to move his elbow. Move your elbow, right? Yeah, no good, okay? So I bring my elbow down, I grasp his elbow with my hand. Okay, this is very similar to a lat knee bar, right? If you guys know like a lat knee bar, this is basically the same thing but with his arm, okay? All right, now, that's what we call a Tegatami, or I don't know what Tegatami translates to, but basically that's a lat, I call that a lat arm bar. Okay, maybe Te means lat, I don't think so, but we can pretend. All right, anyway, so I've got his back. Once again, let's also look at an alternative method of gaining the back triangle, okay? So we looked at one strategy. Let's look at another one. So I get here, we trap. Now before what I was doing is I was going here, into this. Sometimes what you're gonna find is that this is better for control, but sometimes it's not quite as strong as you need for pulling, okay? So this time what I'm gonna do is my left hand is gonna go here, my right hand is gonna go here. This is much stronger for pulling, okay? Now I go here, I pull with both. When Max goes to bring the elbow back, it's really hard. To be honest, guys, this is very good for pulling too. But I find this is even stronger for pulling. Goes to pull back, very hard. Here, he goes to pull back. It's still hard, but see, like, it's a little easier with that. Pull as hard as you can. Yeah, see, like, pull back, pull back. I mean, I've used a little bit more exertion there, right? Whereas here, go to pull back, is really, I'm exerting almost no energy here. Okay, now it's the same transfer process. Let me get the back triangle. Okay, notice how my hips come back during that process. Okay, now again, scoot a little bit this way. Let's look at how I get that Tegatami. So we go here, and I'm holding. This is pushing down, I pass off like so. I grab the elbow, I grab his elbow, and my elbow is coming into my torso. I bridge up, and I get the break that I'm looking for. All right? So that's how we're gonna look to get the back triangle from this arm trap situation. Okay, cut. All right, guys, now let's look at some of my old matches and break down some of the techniques we saw earlier, demonstrated in actual competition. Okay, so this first match was in Phoenix, Arizona, a while ago. This is the same day that I went against Sean O'Malley, by the way. Anyway, so first thing first, my opponent leaps pretty athletically over my guard, and I square up with him. Now from here, look at my right arm. My opponent went for, it appeared to me to be a rolling Kimura there. I think that's what he was going for there. It's a little hard to tell. I think he went for a rolling Kimura on this arm because my elbow is drifting from my torso. There starts to become the possibility of a rolling Kimura. Yep, I'm pretty sure that's what he went for. Yeah, anyway. To get it, I follow up. I went for a back step into the cross ashi, but as you see, his knee is too close to his shoulder, so it's realistically, it's pretty hard to get at. Okay, see how I'm going for it there, and he can keep his knee close to his shoulder, and I'm not able to get above his knee and put his knee within my knee line. Now I come all the way up, and I pass off. I was going to look to start putting the leg to the side and passing, but he comes up to his knees, and I take a front headlock. From the front headlock, right away I spin behind and I get a turtle position. From the turtle, my first movement is to take my right knee and penetrate between his elbow and his knee on his right side, and take my left foot, and I am, usually what I do it is I'll step on the ankle or pull at the ankle. Here, I must have felt like the momentum was sufficient to just break his hips down. Yeah, that's what happened. So, yeah, either you can pull him and knock him like back on his hips, right? Or you can step on the ankle or pull at the ankle with your heel. There's two different options you've got, right? And I went for that one, I got my first hook. Now from here, I have a previous video where I talked about back retention techniques. I'm going to make use of one of those right now. Right now, we're on the side of the parallel back control, where my head and my legs dominate the same side of his body, or rather, I should say his legs. Like, I'm going to cross them on the top side, right? I can't really cross on the bottom side here. It would be a bit awkward. Okay, so that's what makes it a parallel back control, as I call it. I want to be in a diagonal back control, where my head and my legs are on opposite sides of the body, so I have a better opportunity to start looking to trap hands. Okay, so what I'm going to do is a hip out high knee. If you don't know what that is, check out my previous video on back control retention techniques. I go over it pretty extensively in that, but you're going to see it here anyway. So I hip out high knee. Again, if you guys want a breakdown of that, turn to that video. I'm not going to break it down here because I have a whole nother video on that topic. Anyway, I succeed in putting him in a diagonal back control. Now my head's on the bottom side. Okay, my legs, obviously, I'm going to look to control on the top side. Here, let's talk a little bit about what I'm doing with my legs here. I'm crossing my ankles. Okay, so we call this a high ball ride. It's a terrible name. I will readily admit that, but that is what we call it. I don't know why it's called that. But anyway, if I have a high ball ride, you don't score with that. Ultimately, my mindset is that I want to, obviously the submission is the end goal, but I want to score on route to the submission, right? Because in the scenario that the guy gets out of the back control situation, well, I would at least hope that I would have gotten some points from the situation, right? Right. I'm trying to get that hook in, and the ref stops us, circles, puts us back in the center. As you see here, ultimately, I do succeed in finally pummeling that leg to the inside, okay? And how I'm able to score with both my hooks. All right, now take a look at the hand fighting sequence here. This is we're going to see a pattern in many of the matches with this hand fighting sequence. First thing first, he is going to cover his hand like so. He knows that if I'm able to get his hand below the line of his nipples, okay, I can trap with this hand, my left hand, right? So I'm switching hands. Now here, once that's done, he has no choice. He has to change this hand to this hand, right? Because otherwise, there's no primary defensive hand blocking my strangle arm. Now there is, okay? He's put his primary defensive hand to block my strangle arm. It is a good move on his part, but what it means is that now I have double cross grip, which is what we're looking for. And immediately, I put my ankle over the top, and I trap by crossing my legs. So remember, guys, ideally, if I could, I mean, it would be great to get my toes underneath the arm, right, to be able to control it that way. But it's pretty fucking hard. I oftentimes won't even really go for it. I'm assuming that I can't get it unless it's really given to me. Here, look at the wrist immediately comes into the torso. I'm not going to really get it. So I just cross my legs. You've got a series of closed wedges, and now you can keep the arm from coming back in, and you can move forward towards the strangle as we do here, right? Go back and look at that one more time. We're going to see this same hand fighting sequence repeated again and again. So he adopts this sort of a defensive configuration. Okay, ideally he would want to have a primary and secondary defensive hand. So right now, see how this hand is grabbing here? That's his primary defensive hand. He would ideally have this right hand gripping, like I would like, from his perspective, that this hand was lower towards my wrist, and this hand therefore was in the spot that this hand's in, right? Like, you can't always get that, but that's a best case scenario from the perspective of the defensive man, all right? Now, he doesn't have that from the outset. Okay, he doesn't have a primary or a secondary defensive hand. All he has is he's gripping his own head, right? Now, I'm going to take this hand, which would be my strangle hand, I push down, and I switch the grip with my left hand. He has to then take this hand to stop my strangle hand, right? So now he does have a primary defense plan, but again, we've now put him in a situation where he has a dilemma between allowing an unobstructed strangle hand to threaten neck exposure or giving me cross grips. Now look, guys, here he is gripping my arm. I'm not gripping this arm. I'm only gripping this arm. But it doesn't matter. I will allow him to hold on to this because in this situation, he has to hold on to this. He doesn't have a choice. He lets go of that. Now there's an unobstructed strangle hand that goes up, and I start looking for the strangle, right? From here, let's talk a little bit about the digging sequence I use here. So I go back to using, so in the beginning, my left hand was holding, in the beginning, my left hand was holding his left hand. I switched, then my left hand was controlling his right hand, and then I trapped. Now I go back to having my left hand control. So now I can use my strangle hand to start digging for the strangle. I'm going to go and take my the sort of the thinner part of my wrist, right, not the fat parts, the side of my wrist. I'm going to put it against his chin, and I'm going to pull up. Okay, as you do that, sometimes it will draw the guy's head back, and you can switch your wrist under his neck, his chin rather, I should say, to get around his neck. And now I have neck exposure. Here, it's very important as you go for this strangle, guys. One of the worst things you can do is like a wide arm motion. It's going to give him opportunities to grasp that hand. We don't want to have that. So I just go sharp and narrow. There's really no opportunity for him to grasp onto my arm throughout this process. Yeah, he never had a chance to do it. All right, so then I get the strangle. All right, let's talk about the back take, and then we'll get to the hand fighting and digging sequence. All right, so I'm in a knee cut type position. He's got a good frame with his chin and knee protecting inside position at his hip. Okay, and he's got a cross shoulder post. I'm going to grasp his cross shoulder post with my right hand, and then my left hand comes over the top, and I gain a Kimura. Okay, that was possible because of the extension of his arm here in his cross shoulder post. Okay, yeah, that's extended. If this elbow was on the inside, it would have been much harder for me to get this. The mistake he made here was having this elbow on the outside. Okay, you can have it on the inside or you can have it right to the side of the knee. Either position is much safer than the one he has it in right now because look at all the space, guys. It's not good from his perspective, of course, right? He could see it coming. That's why he pulled the elbow back. But at this point, because I've got this good grip on his wrist, I can pull up. And I'm still, even though the space is narrowed, I'm still able to slip my hand in and get my Kimura grip. Right, and now we're in a T Kimura. I follow. This roll looks very fancy, but it's actually very simple, guys. When you get a Kimura, so here I would say we're in like sort of a quasi dorsal Kimura, but now here we're in a T Kimura. In a T Kimura, basically the situation is that the guy can either stay flat in his back, in which case you can kick up and go to like a Pinju Tegatami or a side Kimura, things like that, or he's going to come up to his knees, and as he comes up to his knees, we have an opportunity to pass our left knee to the inside space between his elbow and knee. Okay, and you're going to start looking to take the back here. As I come up, he did it pretty good on his part, actually, right? So it's pretty crafty defense. He knows from the T Kimura, it's very easy for me to follow up into a turtle and take his back. Okay, so as soon as he comes up to that turtle, I'm going to do a roll. But I'm able, as he rolls, to bring this knee over the top, and I roll with him. And I'm able to throw both my hooks in at the same time. I call this rolling movement a Torres roll. One day, Danaher showed it in class, and he cited the example of JT Torres versus Lucas Lepre in the ADCC 2017 Finals 77 kg category. If you guys want to go watch that match, the final sequence where JT took Lepre's back, it's obviously not identical because he didn't have a Kimura, but it's a similar turtle attack sequence. Okay, where this knee comes over, you roll with the guy. In that one, he had one hook in. Okay, here I had no hooks, but it's the same basic movement where now I follow the guy, and then I throw my hooks in. Okay, the reason why it was possible here to do without hooks is because I had that solid Kimura grip. The Kimura grip, in my opinion, is one of the most robust grips in all of Nogi grappling. It's so solid. There's so many things you can do with it. But anyway, now here,
take a look at how my opponent is defending in an identical fashion as the last one. You're going to see this all the time, guys. And what I do is we're going to create the same exact dilemma for him. We push it down. Push this wrist down. Now he has to form a primary defensive hand. If he doesn't, I can just strangle him with my strangle arm. As soon as he does that, guess what? You have cross grips now. Because you've got cross grips and you're in a diagonal back control, there is nothing on the top side obstructing this leg from coming over right away. There's nothing in the way of it. It's so easy to throw this over the top and trap the wrist. Now here, I'm able to catch with the toes and put behind his back. That was a mistake on his part. He should have kept it stapled to his side. But because he brought it up, I can go for this option. Whereas with the last match, the guy kept his hand to his torso. I'm just going to cross my legs, all right? So that's the big difference here. And I go through basically the same exact beating sequence with the strangle. Yeah, it's basically the same. And I get the strangle. All right, so now this time we're going to see basically the same entry to the back, okay, but a completely different finishing sequence, okay, where now we're going to explore a different form of neck exposure, all right? So I'm going to go for him rolling Kimura. Now this time, instead of going to a T Kimura, okay, I'm in a dorsal Kimura here, and he heists pretty fast, so instead of going down to the T Kimura, I just throw my leg over. I tried to get that hook in, didn't work. I came up to what I call a sumo squat position, and I just pulled him back. Very, very strong position to just knock people back from a total position. Okay, now here, I'm going to throw my first hook in. Notice here how he's keeping his knee very close to his upper body. My goal, therefore, has to be to use a narrow point of my body to start inserting to gain inside position. I use my heel here. Okay, that's, in my opinion, the best point of insertion when you're looking to get your hooks in this kind of a situation when they're being tight, right? So it's hard to see because I'm wearing all black, but basically my knee is coming close to my shoulder. Okay, that's what's going to allow me to get the space to put my foot in. Okay, I am very flexible, guys, and this certainly does help, but you don't have to be flexible to do this. As long as you're doing things mechanically correctly, you can definitely get it done. So get that first hook in, and then I'm able to throw the second hook in pretty easily. Now here we're going to see an identical hand fighting sequence. This is the same thing again. This pattern appears again and again and again. I was just looking for back control matches that I've had in the past, matches where the back control is featured to break down for you guys, and like I found so many with this exact sequence. It's super, super common. And again, now this dilemma is created once again. So this hand, my left hand, is about to grip his right hand, and he can sense it. Now there's nothing stopping my right hand from going right to his neck. Look what he does. He grabs it. That's what he should do in that situation, right? This is why it's a dilemma, because the reality of it is what else is he going to do? Not stop my hand from moving up to his neck. He has to do it. But in doing it, unfortunately, what he does is, from his perspective, it's unfortunate. He gives me double cross grips, and I pass up and I trap. Okay. Now here, what's going to happen is I decide, instead of digging for the neck with my arm, to pass off to a Kimura grip on the other side. From which point now I'm going to pass off to a back triangle. Okay. We're going to look at the finish. Let's just talk about this a little bit more. All right. So you always want to understand that when you've got the back control, of course the rear strangle is king. Okay, getting your arms around the guy's neck, that's always the main thing you're looking for. But it's not the only thing you're looking for, okay? We can also use our legs to attack his neck, okay? And it's always better to have two attacks rather than one, right? If I'm only going for one thing over and over again, it can start to become predictable and you could potentially stop it, okay? Now, if we have two, we're going to increase the odds at which we can get either one, right? Because he has more than one threat coming at him. So what I always like to do is play a game. I view the back control as having three main attack options, okay? You got exposing his neck with your arms, exposing his neck with your legs, or switching to a pin Tegatami. These are, in my opinion, the three best sort of avenues for attack from the back position. And I like to shift between all three, okay? So anyway, this time, obviously I'm going for the neck with my legs. The best way to pass off to a back triangle is to have your legs crossed. If in this case, my right leg was behind his back, can't pass off to a back triangle because the first movement that's going to have to happen is this leg needs to come over here, right? If it's behind his back, I guess you could do it, but it would be very sort of inefficient. All right, now look at my left leg. My left leg is extending here. All right, that's going to now give me the ability to pass off to a back triangle. Okay, because the reason why it gives you that ability is your hips here have to move back. So I throw my right leg over, and extending my left leg enables me to bring my hips back. Okay, so without that, it's pretty difficult to lock the triangle up. Now, the actual finish that I usually look for from this position is the Tegatami. Okay, this is such a strong armbar. Okay, this is not actually a true Tegatami, because a true Tegatami would involve grasping the elbow. Yeah, I never managed to actually get that here. This is more of like if you guys know what a lat knee bar is, it's kind of like a lat arm bar. It's basically like a variation of the Tegatami. That's what I was going for. Actually, you know what? You could argue this is a Tegatami variation, because my right hand is grabbing his elbow. So you could argue it's a variation of Tegatami. A traditional Tegatami, the left hand would be grabbing the elbow, rather than, in this case, the right hand. But yeah, I mean, it's semantics, right? It's an armbar, basically like a lat armbar variation. Okay, I got my finish. That's honestly my favorite finish from the back triangle. You can go for strangles, and I have gotten those before, but I think that the power and sharpness of that arm lock, man, it's very strong. Okay, in my opinion, that is possibly the strongest arm lock you can get. I think the back triangle is possibly, debatably, the single best arm locking position from the perspective of a straight arm lock. Okay, if you can get that, man, it's so strong. I would say it's stronger than the regular pinned Juji Gatami, but a regular arm bar position, so to speak. Anyway, so we're going to look at another Kimura. Now this time the back take is a bit different. I fall into what is kind of similar to a deep half. Okay, sort of like a deep half, but I have a Kimura. You see this sort of position happen a lot in matches where people are playing deep half. That's not what happened here. What happened here is the guy just kept his legs locked as I went to roll. In the previous matches, the guy didn't lock his legs, right? So, for instance, if we go back to this one, locked leg. So I'm able to take a look at my right leg. My right leg here. If he locked his legs, that's what we're going to look at later. But he doesn't. See what comes right out. Yeah, and I go take Kimura, roll up, and I get the back, right? Okay, now in this other match, here, he locks his legs. There's merits to both, okay? Here, if you lock your legs, you're shackling your ability to move and escape, but you are sort of impeding my ability to progress towards your back, okay? So those are the pros and cons of both. I would, if I was him, I would probably let go. I would probably try to turtle up, but there's an argument to be made for both. So now, I do, again, this is on my back control retention video I have. You can check that out on my channel. I do a hip up high knee. Okay, I'll break that down because I have a whole video on it, so you guys can just watch the video. Anyway, I go the second hook in. Now here, I basically have his back. It's super easy to draw your hook out at this. Draw this leg out from this like quarter guard situation, half guard situation, and now I have go over a pin juji, and ultimately I switch to the back. I was trying to score first, make sure I did that. Now, because of the angle, you can't really see the hand fighting here, but you can kind of see it for a second. As it was the same. It was the same hand fighting sequence. See what he's doing with his right hand. It's a bit hard to see, but he's going like this. All right, so same thing. If you guys get good at this hand fighting sequence, you're gonna kill people with it. It's so common. All right, so anyway, I grab, I push the wrist down, and I trap just as before. I get cross grips. Took a few tries actually, but I'm able to get it. Now I pass off again to the back triangle. Same exact finish. He tapped pretty fast. He's tapping right here, and I have a Tegatami. See how I'm reaching with this hand? Your goal is usually to grab his elbow. That's a true Tegatami, but I didn't get there because he tapped. Okay. So one last match. In this match, this was the third time I had gone against this opponent. Okay, the first two times I had heel hooked him, and I was really trying to heel hook him in this match. Even just as like I said, I knew that he was fighting like hell to not get heel hooked. Of course, I mean that's what he should do, but like he was giving me other things. But my stupid ass, I was like, you know what? I really want the heel hook. So I kept going for it. So we'll see here. I'm going to go through for a standard ashi. And one of the main defensive reactions you see when you go for leg locks is the guy willingly puts his hips on the mat. There's a number of reasons for him to do this. It's easier when he's seated for him to move in a lateral fashion backwards, which enables him to get his knee out of your knee line. If he's upright, for him to get his knee out of your knee line would require him to kind of like elevate himself just straight up, right? That's kind of difficult unless he's able to float up in the air. That would be pretty hard, right? Unless he can really jump very high. If you're seated, you can go laterally backwards, right, to get the knee out of the knee line. Whereas if you're standing, to get the knee out of the knee line, you'd have to, again, you guys think about it, you got to go up, right? So anyway, that's one reason for him to bring his hips to the mat when he's being attacked with a leg lock. The other reason is that he doesn't want pressure put to the back of his knee, right? There are variations of ashigarami where you can put pressure to the back of the knee and expose the heel. Okay, kind of a different topic than this video, but I did want to mention it briefly. That's why he did that. That was a reactive defense on his part to my attack. That wasn't a proactive attack on my part that put him down. Okay, it was a defensive reaction that did that. Now look, he did exactly what I said he potentially could have done. By putting his hips out on the mat, he now has a better ability to use his secondary leg and bring his hips back to his knee for my knee line. Now at this point, Gary Tonin was off to the side cornering me, and he was yelling. He's like, "Rob, just get up and take his fucking back, or get up and get the sweep." And I don't remember exactly what he said, but basically he was just like, "Get up and get on top, do something different." And so I was like, "Okay, he's right. I need to do something different." I think this is me looking at Gary right now. But anyway, I come up, I got my score, and now he turns to get away from me, just exposes his back. Very unathletic tackle, but like I go and I get hold of his hips and I just fucking jump like an idiot. This is not a sequence I would recommend practicing. I've gotten much better at these positions now, but ultimately, even though it's sloppy as fuck, I am able to pull him down to the mat and get that first hook in. One more time. Sloppy as fuck, but I'm able to pull him down and get my right leg. That's my first hook right there. Okay. Now, the first hook, now I get the second hook. Now from here, he was actually doing a pretty good job of bridging into me. Okay, and it was a bit difficult to hold him down. So I'm looking for the strangle with his hand here, and my left hand is holding this hand, his left hand, right? But because his right hand is in place blocking my strangle hand, I was putting some pressure on him, but it's not enough to really get to the strangle. As soon as, look guys, it's the same exact hand fighting sequence. As soon as he goes, he makes this sort of a grip. I grip, pass it. Now he reacted a bit more intelligently than the other guys. He didn't just stay in place, he moved. And as he moved, look what happens. My right leg comes up, traps, and now as soon as it's trapped, moving was not smart. Now I can lock up a triangle. Man, it's terrible for him. Okay, now you're in a parallel back control with a body triangle on the top side, and his arm is stuck. This is honestly one of the worst positions you can be in from the back control. A really good example of this same situation is Nikki Ryan versus Hideo Tokoro. That was a quintet super fight. It's on UFC Fight Pass, I believe. It should be, yeah. And yeah, this is a difficult position to like proactively force to happen. But if the guy's bridging into you and you're able to get this hand fighting sequence going, he has two options. He can either stay on this side, and then you're going to go and do the things you did that I did before in the previous matches, or he's going to turn. Guess what? Honestly, it's even worse. Now we get a body triangle on the top side, and his arm is trapped on the bottom side. Terrible. I don't know what breaking sequence I did. It's hard to see. I may have just gotten a mandible strangle here. Hard to see, but anyway, I got to the strangle, and that's the main point was the hand fighting that I wanted to show you guys. Anyway, guys, hope you found this useful. I think that if you're gonna get good at any one position in jiu-jitsu, obviously you should get good at more than one position. But if there's only one you're gonna initially spend your time on, it should be the back control. So hopefully this helped.